Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a quick 30-minute rigatoni dish. So hopping right in, I have a skillet and I greased it with olive oil. Not greased it, but put some olive oil in the pan. And I have 2 pounds of ground beef. It's 80-20, but you can use more leaner beef if you like, or you can go ahead and use ground turkey. I added in some minced garlic, about 2 tablespoons. That's half of a sweet onion, half of a red bell pepper. And then I have a special blend of seasoning. It's not too special. It's just basically spaghetti seasoning that I bought from Sam's Club. And basically what that is a bunch of aromatics that are dehydrated. And then I mixed in 2 tablespoons of my favorite seasoned salt, as well as black pepper and fine garlic or fine onion powder, as well as granulated garlic and some oregano and thyme. And don't make a mess like I do, but go ahead and just mix that all together. And you want to break up the beef so it browns evenly. So I'm going to be using rigatoni pasta, and you can use the base of this sauce or the meat portion of this sauce for spaghetti. You can use any type of noodles you want, or even to make a lasagna, but I just needed to feed my daughter and I was hangry, so I was like, I need to cook something quick. So my daughter was home from school yesterday, so I didn't want to go and buy Chick-fil-A because that wasn't fair for my son. Like, if I would have bought us fast food and not her. So he had some of this when he came home, and they were super duper happy. But yep, you just want to go ahead and break that up. And I have the water boiling while the meat is cooking, so it takes up less time. So what I do is, once the meat is browned, I go in with a can of fire roasted tomatoes, and they are garlic flavored, and they are by the Hunt's brand. I don't think you necessarily have to use name brand products. Like, I use Walmart brand products, and my food is still pretty incredible from what I hear from my clients, because I am a caterer part-time, or I own a caterer. Ooh, I have a pancake, but I am a caterer and I own my own catering company. So you don't always have to use name brand food to have great taste in food. As long as you're building like a good flavor profile with your food, that's all that matters. And I do taste the food. It's just me and my kids eating this, but I did wash the spoon, so don't get all, oh my gosh, she ate off the spoon and put it back in the pot. But anyways, I just let that brown, and you want to let all this stuff marry together. That's how you build a good and nice flavor profile, especially when you're making meat sauces for pasta. Like, you need to let it simmer and just have layers of flavor, if that makes sense. And what I just showed you guys is I'm using 2 jars of marinara sauce or spaghetti sauce, whatever you want to call it, pasta sauce. I have these little ramekins that I poured it into, but I ended up using about 1.5 jars, and the flavor is up to you. I think I got like 3 cheese and like tomato, garlic, basil, something of that nature, but I used 1 full jar of one and 1/2 jar of another. And I'm just letting the tomatoes marry with the beef a little bit before I go ahead and add the sauce in. And another important thing is to make sure you drain your beef. 80-20 is 80% lean meat, 20% fat. So you want to go ahead and make sure you drain it. I don't drain mine completely because I don't want dry beef, because that's trifling. But yeah, just go ahead and drain it to the best of your ability. And I went in and added a couple of pinches or hearty pinches of some grated Parmesan cheese. And this just gives it another layer of flavor. So when you're cooking, that's all you're doing, is just developing flavor and layers and just making the dish from your heart. I cook with my heart. I don't cook or follow any recipes. The recipes that I use are recipes that I've developed myself, just from trial and error, from testing, from just little ideas that have popped up in my head. And this is the recipe for my rigatoni, and I do use the same type of base for my spaghetti, but I do let everything cook a little bit lower and slower than normal. That's why this is a 30-minute dish. My spaghetti normally takes longer. And I am going ahead and cooking my pasta while the meat is cooking again, so it could just shorten the cook time of the complete meal. So I went ahead and I drained my pasta and I combined it into the skillet with my beef mixture or my meat sauce, whatever you want to call it. And this is the part where you're going to see me add in another. So when I first did it, I used 2 ramekins full of the sauce, which is equal to about 1 jar. But I like my pasta saucy, and my kids do too. I don't like dry pasta, especially when it's in a red sauce. So I went ahead and I added another ramekin full of sauce, which was about another half of a jar. So I used in total 1.5 jars. And when you're cooking, you want to taste your food at all times. Do not put the same spoon or fork or utensil that you're cooking with in your mouth and then back into the food if you're cooking for other people besides you and your family. I do it because I'm cooking for me and my kids. But tasting your food is incredibly important. So anyways, I went ahead, added extra sauce into the pan. And there's nothing special with this cheese. This is just regular mozzarella cheese or grated mozzarella cheese. It's 2 different brands of cheese, but I just like the way one melts better than the other, so I used both. And I did reserve half of the little ramekin so I can use it for a topping, because this amount of food yields about 5 servings. So I went ahead and I split it in half and baked one off in the oven with cheese, and one I just left plain without cheese, and I didn't really put it in the oven or anything. And this type of pasta is super good just like this. Or if you're feeling a little jazzy like I was, I went ahead and added some parsley, fresh parsley. There's nothing wrong with using the dehydrated parsley, but fresh parsley just gives it such a robust flavor. I love using, sorry, I was rudely interrupted by my daughter, but like I was saying, I love using fresh herbs and aromatics because they're not the same as using the dried ones. When something is dried and dehydrated, the flavor profile is a lot lower than something fresh, if that makes sense. But yep, I just sprinkled in some fresh parsley, and you just let it marry together for a little bit and simmer away. And this dish probably took me about, I want to say maybe about 25 to 35 minutes. But look at that. That is so pretty, and it looks so freaking good, and you can eat it straight like this. This is how I fed it to my daughter because she didn't want to wait for it to go in the oven. So I just spooned some out and gave her some, and she was happy. So now I'm mixing everything together just so everything's combined. And oh my gosh, guys, this was so freaking good. Sorry for being loud, but it was just really good. So I didn't have like a large pan, so I had these little 7x5 pans. I think that's the right measurement, and I just went ahead and threw the pasta in there and the remaining half ramekins of cheese. And again, they're both mozzarella. They're both one store brand, and I think one is Kraft brand grated mozzarella. So I just went ahead and topped that off with that, and then threw in more fresh parsley on top just for presentation, because I love to make pretty food. I'm extra when it comes to cooking, guys, like super duper extra. Then I put it into a 450 degree oven, I think for about 10 minutes if I'm not mistaken. Now here's the fun part. A lot of people say fish and spaghetti and pasta, or like pasta like this does not go with catfish, but yes, it does. And I will always make it like this. And I mean, you could fry like chicken wings or something, but I feel like fish is a lot lighter of a side dish to have with this as opposed to like fried chicken. So I had some catfish on hand, so I went ahead and seasoned it up. Inside the seasoning mix, I just put a few tablespoons of my favorite, this was teaspoons. So I used a teaspoon of my favorite seasoned salt, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of granulated garlic, some paprika, some black pepper, and that's what was in that little white ramekin that I seasoned directly on the fish. And then I had 2 cups of cornmeal, and I poured in the rest of the spaghetti seasoning that I used because I didn't want to waste it into the cornmeal to kind of have seasoned flour or cornmeal, if you will. And once the fish was seasoned, I went ahead and mixed the seasoning with the cornmeal and just dredged the catfish in the cornmeal. And you want to keep your work surface clean as you go, because it helps in the long run. I don't have a husband yet, so I don't have someone to clean the kitchen after I'm done cooking. What a drag. But I was just testing the oil, so I threw in a little bit of the cornmeal into the oil to see if it was hot enough for me to put the catfish in. And you want to cook the catfish for about 7 to maybe 10 minutes on each side. I had the heat kind of high up, so I went ahead and turned it down. This is what it looks like after I flipped it. It was so pretty. And it was done. So don't come for my setup, because I don't know where any of all my utensils literally are missing, but I just drained it on a paper towel that was on a paper plate. And this is the finished result of the pasta. Pulled it out of the oven. Look at that deliciousness. And that's basically it, guys. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.